friends, Sister Intern Tanya here. Welcome to another. As you can already tell, today we're talking about discerning married life versus consecrated life. And I am so excited because somebody very special is going to help me talk about the married side of things.
It's me! Hey guys, my name is Glaze and I am one half of the YouTube channel That Catholic Couple, and I am so excited to be here to talk about discernment and vocations and all of these other beautiful things that God is calling us to do.
Let's dive in.
I was raised cradle Catholic, but it was mostly a title. We didn't really live out that Catholicism as I was growing up. My family's from Mexico, and so that strong Hispanic culture kind of dictated that name. Like, we were Catholic by name and by association, but we really didn't do much to live that out as a family or as individual people. I never really had a relationship with Jesus. Fast forward to college, after a not so great freshman year, my sophomore year, I decided to take my faith life a little bit more seriously, and the Catholic Church always still felt like home to me, so I started there, and I ended up falling in love with Jesus through the sacraments, through the beauty of the church, through the teachings and the relationships that I was building in that community on campus. I started to get to know Jesus really well, and it was my last year of college where I felt that he was calling me to do more. So I ended up joining Focus, that stands for the Fellowship of Catholic University Students, and it's a missionary group that works with college students as an apostolate. So I served for 2 years with that ministry, and so I guess that's where you could say my discernment started to happen. I won't get into too many of the details of the Focus Dating Fast, but it's there to serve the missionaries, to give them some time to really ask God what he wants to do when it comes to vocations, when it comes to this mission, when it comes to serving others. It's really there almost like as a cleanse, I would say, even though Focus probably won't quote me on that. But for me, that's how it felt. It felt like I needed to really detach myself of the dating culture, of these relationships that I had carried with me and these wounds that I was carrying with me that first year that I was on staff. So yes, even though my vocational discernment my first year might have been kind of forced upon me by this dating fast, I still needed that time. I think all of us need to give God some time to really ask him, like, what is it that you want from me, and what is it that you are calling me to do when it comes to our apostolates and our vocations. This video is about vocational discernment, so I'll only speak about that, but I'm just saying, taking a year to really focus on what God is calling you to do and how he wants to heal you, I think all of us should do it, really. All of my single brothers and sisters should really spend some time asking God what he wants.
Just from previous videos, you know about my discernment journey from senior year up until now, but I kind of want to talk about what happened before that. From the moment I got involved in my university's campus ministry, I started hearing people say, "Oh, have you discerned religious life?" And I was like, "What? What's that?" And they said, like, "Oh, like, you know, becoming a sister." And I had never heard that before. But it made complete sense to me. I've never been in a relationship. I loved God with all my heart. And so I just took that and ran with it. For the next 3 years, every single day, all I did was ask God if this is what he wanted me to do. But I never really listened for his answer. So junior year came along and I was like, you know what, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. I'm going to have an answer. So I prayed a novena to St. Therese of Lisieux to know my vocation. And I got an answer I didn't want. I got married life. Now don't get me wrong, I wanted that because I've always envisioned myself getting married and having a family and everything. But at the same time, I felt in my heart this like growing desire to give my heart completely to God and my life completely to him, that I was just like, what's going on, God? Like, what happened? And I was really frustrated, but, you know, I was happy at the same time, and I went to my spiritual director, and I go, I know what my vocation is. And he looks at me, and he's like, really? And I go, yeah, I'm called to marriage. And he's like, Tanya, I think you should, you know, stop focusing on all that stuff and focus on letting Jesus love you. And in that moment, my brain just stopped, and I was like, what? Like, letting Jesus love me? But Jesus does love me. I didn't know what that meant, actually. And in the spring semester, I was invited to a discernment retreat with the Mercedarian sisters, and I did not want to go at all. But Holy Spirit made it work, and I found myself on this retreat. I took the weekend as like a time to just be with Jesus or whatever, but I didn't really realize that they'd be talking about vocations the entire weekend. Duh, it's a discernment retreat. So I was so mad. I didn't want to hear about it. You know, I had finally been like, I'm not thinking about my vocation, but that's all they talked about. And so one of the sisters pulled me aside, and since I came to the retreat late, she said, you know, Father Josh gave a homily earlier, and he said everyone is called to 3 vocations. A vocation to the present, a vocation to your state of life, which is marriage or consecrated life, and then a vocation to holiness. By focusing on the first and third, your second will come. I was so focused on my second that I never even thought about the first and third. And my whole view about vocations changed. I started focusing on the present moment and letting Jesus love me and just filling my heart with his love and doing what I had to do in that moment and not caring about the future. Yes, I had plans and goals and everything, but I wasn't holding on to them so tightly like I was before. I was just pursuing holiness in the everyday, and then senior year, his call popped into my life and I was able to just respond and answer.
Some practical things that I did during my first year was I met with my spiritual director every month. I started to go on vocational discernment retreats. I had never been on those. I went on one with a specific religious order. So it was with the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, and they are amazing. They're so beautiful. They're based out of Ann Arbor. That was so much fun. And then I also went on a couple other retreats, like a spiritual impact boot camp that helped me go through some healing, and a couple other ones throughout the year. They're a little smaller, but all of those retreats just helped me to heal and to really ask God like what he wanted from me in a loving way. I keep saying that, and it's not because God is like a dictator and he like wants so much out of you, but it's like, how can I best serve you, Lord? Like, you love me so immensely and so ardently that the least I can do is to find a way to help glorify you and continue to glorify you through my daily life. So what does that daily life look like, God? That's basically what I kept asking him. And I also read a book that changed my life, aside from the Bible, because I did read a lot of scripture that first year. But I read a book, it's this one, called I Believe in Love. It's a personal retreat based on the teaching of St. Therese of Lisieux by Father John C.J. Delbe. It's French, I don't know. I'm sure we'll link it in the description. But it rocked my world. St. Therese was all about serving God in little ways. And sometimes I feel like we can get overwhelmed with the grand like vocation, right? Like that word can be so big and so large that reading how she felt and how she loved God in small little ways throughout her daily life really put things into perspective of saying like, no, vocation in and of itself, our first vocation is to love and serve God. That is our most holy vocation. And so whatever God has planned for me and whatever vocation I choose, it all comes down to the little ways that I can love him, like the little ways that I can give of myself and glorify him in every walk of my life. So yeah, this book, this saint, she's amazing. She's a rock star. I would recommend everyone who is discerning right now to go pick up a copy and read it. This is not an ad, by the way. I'm not getting paid by this person. Although I'm sure St. Therese is super excited that I'm talking about her. 2 things that I learned while I was discerning on that dating fast was, the first one, our culture's most popular vocation is marriage, right? Like that is the one that we see the most. That's the one that we probably interact with the most. It's in movies, it's in books, it's in stories. Like we see our parents are married, right? So like that's the first one that we encounter is marriage. And for me, I know that was my default one. So before, when people would ask me like, hey, have you ever considered being a religious? Like I would say, no, I'm gonna be a mom. Like I just know I was gonna be a mom. But during that year, I started to realize like, I've never actually given any thought if I do want to be a mom. I kind of just keep saying it because that's what everybody does. You know, or I'm gonna be a wife. I know I'm gonna get married. And it's like, do I really know that I'm gonna get married? Or is it just that that's what I've seen so much? The biggest thing I learned was that I needed to see both vocations, see the beauty in both vocations, uphold both vocations on an even playing field, and really ask God to like speak to me in a certain direction. I also started to hang out a lot with a married couple at Baylor too and see the beauty of their vocation. And again, I went on a lot of discernment retreats, so I saw the beauty of the spouses you know, like in a marriage. But then I also saw the beauty of the spouses in religious life, the sisters with Jesus, like laying down their lives and serving people. It was just beautiful. They're both holy. They're both attractive. They're both so fun. Like, one, you get to procreate and have babies. The other one, you get to serve and meet so many people and like sometimes even travel. Like, there's so many awesome things that religious sisters do and awesome things that parents and husbands and wives do, that for me helped me to have both on like an equal balance and say like, wow, they're really both awesome.
To add to that, I learned that both vocations are holy. I completely put consecrated life on a pedestal, and I thought that if I wasn't called to that, I wasn't as holy. But when I was back in that confused place of not knowing which vocation God was calling me to, God showed me that, whoa, Tanya, like the way you thought about vocations was wrong. God showed me that there's holiness in both. Both lead you to heaven. Both involve sacrifices and uniting your sufferings to Christ. And both share his love on earth. I also learned to enjoy my period of singleness, and it was long, but it's a perfect time to get to know God better, to purify your heart, to take advantage of any opportunity, and to learn about every vocation. It's honestly the best time to discern consecrated life because that's the last thing that you want to do when you're in a relationship with a man you care about. Believe me, I know singleness is hard sometimes, but if you spend the whole time wanting it to be over, when it is, you're going to be like, wow, I missed out on so much.
The second thing I learned kind of goes into that first thing that I learned, is that I was attracted to religious life in a similar way, not the same way, but in a similar way that I was attracted to a cute guy, and that cute guy being my husband. Like, I still talk to my husband about this right now and say, whenever I see religious sisters, my heart starts to race because I get so giddy and so excited to see them. And it's not, again, it's not the same way that my heart starts to race when I see my husband, right? But there's something so attractive about them, about the joy that they are radiating and like the love that is overflowing from them that is of Christ and that is Christ-like, that every time I see them, something in me like is drawn to them and I want to go talk to them and hang out with them and be their best friends. And I know that if I had never gone to a retreat with religious sisters, if I had never interacted with them, if I had never given them the opportunity to really speak to me and talk to me, I would have never felt this. Because sadly, I grew up with the idea that religious women were sad and miserable and were only religious because they hadn't found someone to marry. And I feel like a lot of times that is a big stereotype that they've probably encountered. And it's so messed up. Guys, that's a bunch of baloney. Like, some of these women are beautiful, and I'm sure anybody would have been lucky to marry them. But hey, they chose to marry Jesus, and I mean, he's perfect, so that's pretty awesome. I am very happy that I took that time to really get to know them and really get to know an order, even just an order of religious sisters and nuns, and talk to them, because yeah, religious life is amazing. It can be attractive, and I think it should be attractive. It's okay if your heart starts to race like mine does. So we got a couple of questions, and one of them is from Twitter. It's from @BubblyCatholic. I believe your name is Lizzie, because I see you on Twitter all the time, Lizzie. You're awesome. So she asked, how have those living out the opposite vocation inspired you to pursue or live out yours authentically? The genuine joy and the pure love that they are radiating, which I've already mentioned, and I can't stress it enough, it's real. It's a real thing. Religious sisters, you're radiating and beautiful. It makes me reassess whenever I see them and my heart starts to race and all that starts to happen. I start to reassess like my own vocation, and I start to reassess like how I am portraying my vocation to other people, if that makes sense. Not to be fake. I'm not saying that we should be fake and pretend like, oh, life is so perfect and everything. But I really do ask myself, like, if someone were to look at me, would they also see that love radiating through them, that love of Christ radiating through them? Would they see the genuine joy of my vocation? Or do people just see me complaining about dishes and laundry and diapers and the fight that I had with my husband in the car before we showed up at an event? Like, are people seeing that, or are they seeing the true love that I have for my Lord and Savior and for my spouse? Because that's what I want them to see. I want people to see the beauty in marriage. And yes, marriage is hard, so there are times when I can share this with people. But I think overall, my love for Christ should be much more than the stress and the complaints and the worry. Like, that all should not compare to what I'm portraying my vocation to be. So whenever I see religious sisters who are so happy and just so joyful, it makes me reassess, like, am I happy and joyful too? And if I'm not, then what needs to change within me? What do I need to embrace more? So yeah, I would say that is one way that they help me out.
My question is, how did you find being attracted to the ideal and reality of each vocation? I was definitely attracted to the ideal in married life of having a physical man to be with and having a family and a house and like all those things that you dream of as a little kid. But when I thought about the reality of what that day-to-day life would look like, and I just started learning more about myself and my desires in prayer and what God desired of me, I realized I had this desire to be a mother to the world. I wanted to give my entire life to Christ and just like be a mother and care for everybody here on earth. The reality of religious life isn't always easy, and neither is married life, but I loved the structure of it all, and like I realized I needed structure in my day and just getting to spend so much time in prayer every day. Ultimately, religious life is what gave me the most peace and joy when I thought about the future, like really thought about the future, and then when I visited a community of sisters. Women and men, don't worry about your vocation if you don't know what it is. It's not a puzzle that you have to try and solve. God is supposed to lead you to it. He came to the apostles when they were doing their everyday work. They were able to hear him because they were focused on what they were doing in that specific moment. They weren't distracted about thinking about the future. So focus on what you're supposed to do right now, and God will show you in his time. And his timing is perfect.
To all of my brothers and sisters out there who are single right now and are currently discerning or have never discerned, take a step in a direction. I feel like sometimes we can get caught up in just staying in the discernment itself, which can mean just praying. But there's only so much that praying can do. We are called to take action. So I would say, if you're just praying about your vocation, but you're not taking steps in any direction, then you might want to start doing that. You should go on that discernment retreat, or you should maybe go out on that coffee date with that guy. Start taking these leaps of faith, start taking these little steps, and trust that the Lord will either guide them in that direction or change your course if that's not where you're supposed to go. Sometimes we can get caught up in just the prayer bubble and like, I'm good, I'm here, like God will bring me exactly what I need to do and who I need to meet in order for my vocation to happen. And that's just not true. Actually, that's probably what Satan wants you to do, because he doesn't want you to live out your vocation. So take steps, be proactive, go in a direction and ask God to guide you as you start going in that direction.
So that's all for today's video, Anna, and I pray that sharing our journeys helps you in some way.
I am so happy that I got to be on this video. I'm so honored that Tanya asked me to join you all. Her channel is awesome. Make sure that you are subscribed to it. And please keep her and everybody else who's discerning out there in your prayers. We need more holy vocations.
A big thank you to Anna for being part of this. Go show her some love on her channel, That Catholic Couple. I'll leave a link in the description below. You can find her on Instagram and Twitter as well, at @AG_Glaze. If you have any questions, you can always leave them in the comments below or find us on social media.
Well, I'll catch you guys around social media. Stay holy, my friends.
Know that we are praying for you. Bye.